Thank you very much. So I'm very pleased to be here today, and I read the report when I was given a copy of it with great interest, and certainly some things rang true for me, but I'll explain my background a little bit and then tell you what elements of the report I found most interesting. I've had nearly 20 years, in fact just over 20 years, working in the oil and gas industry for one company, but in 3 different continents, in Europe, North America, and Africa. So I've had the sort of unique perspective now of seeing the same company, the same industry, the same set of management practices, systems, rules, processes, but applied in 3 completely different environments, cultures, and I think that gives me an interesting perspective on what works and what doesn't. And right now, even I look at our businesses here in the United Kingdom. On one side of the North Sea. On the other side of the North Sea, we have a business in Norway. And the contrasts in our business are astonishing when you consider we're working in the same body of water, we're working with the same oil and gas reservoirs, we're working with the same clients, we have the same processes, we have the same equipment, we have the same technology, and yet we have a completely different market share, business, revenues, profits, and almost every metric we're different. So that really plays to, it's not about your practices, it's about how you implement them, and it's about how the management implement them and how they fit really into the cultures and to the business. I read with interest and read the report with interest about the macro environment, policymakers, and what can people do to make British business, UK business more successful. I can tell you as a manager, as someone in that business, I don't think we spend a lot of time worrying about that on a day-to-day basis. I worry about my competition. I worry about being successful in that environment, whatever that environment is. And having been in the US and Africa and Europe, you tend to adapt to the environment you're in. The best analogy I can always think of is the story about the 2 gentlemen hunting in Africa. And suddenly a lion steps out of the jungle and charges towards them. The first one runs off down the road. The second one stops, opens his bag, puts his trainers on. His friend calls back. You're never going to outrun the lion. He says, I'm not trying to outrun the lion, I'm trying to outrun you. And that's exactly how we go to market every day in reality. We're not trying to beat the system, we're trying to beat our competitors within the system. So I think that's an important element. There are some areas where I do think we do have an obligation to work closely with our industry, with our competitors, to develop standards and expectations across industry. And those are around areas like health, safety, and environment. It's the first thing I talk about every day. It's absolutely critical in our industry that we get that right. And we should collaborate and try and share the best practices and the best ways to work to prevent incidents and accidents. And the UK's had some very hard lessons in the past with Piper Alpha. And obviously the industry is learning more lessons now in the Gulf of Mexico. But even that worries me a little bit because of the risk that those become assumptions. These are the best practices. This is what the industry's come up with, and therefore we can't go wrong. Unfortunately, history tells us that groupthink approach ultimately can get us into trouble as well. So we have to be very careful about that. I would also like to just comment, I really support what Rick has said. I really believe there is no silver bullet. There is no best practice. There is no right idea. I think that the thing that works well is be open to new ideas, bring them into you, and I look at them and try and stay up to date with these things. And as a company, we look at them too, and we bring in, whether it's the Porter stuff about the discipline of market leaders, or guerrilla marketing, or Lean Six Sigma for services, bring them in, look at them. You're only going to accept that this is a test or a trial. As Rick said, trial and error. It softens the organization to the fact that we're going to try something, it may work, it may not. The trick is to understand what did work, to capture that, and to learn from it and build on it. And that's how you create these signature processes. They're built over time. You're trying to take the best from these great ideas that come out, but they're not a silver bullet. They don't fix everything. Apply them to the values of your business, and build your own signature processes. And I think that's absolutely the way forward, and it's absolutely the key to success. The other things I thought were really good in the report and very relevant to the United Kingdom. I think there is a problem with inertia. There is a problem, particularly in the UK, around changing, about overestimating how well we're doing, overstating performance, and avoiding risk. And that culture is an absolute barrier that seems to be, to my mind, a bit more of a challenge here than perhaps in some other parts of the world.